Night Vision. Following clues left by our ancestors, we unbury the past to reveal a knowledge of unfathomable value, putting us just a little closer to our own true birthrights. From the secret history of a possible bloodline of Jesus Christ, the secret history of America's founders, to the secret history of extraterrestrial interaction on our planet, here to bring light to the night. Your host for Night Vision Radio, Renee Barnett.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining. Here we are again, back at the old Night Vision desk. I have a really special show planned for today. Wanted to mention a couple of things shortly. Getting ready to head off to France to do a tour and to do some work over there for a couple of months. So I'll be broadcasting from France for a couple of months, and but I'll be available just as I am here in the United States. But interestingly, just a little bit of a preamble to the show tonight. Back in the earlier mid 2000s, I'm trying to remember exactly when it was. I was at my office and a young woman came by, a young British woman named Victoria Holt. And haven't spoken to her in years. But she came by and she was representing a couple of authors by the name of, I want to say, well, their last name was Solomon. So I will let my guest correct the record. Anyhow, and she was representing the Solomons, who had written a book about a group in England, in the little village of Scole, England, who had started out doing some experimentation with communicating with the other side or with other realms. And they had some uncanny success, which was later borne out with tests and all kinds of things. But they went on for a few years, had some amazing results. The Solomons wrote a book called The Scole Experiment, and which I represented for a little while with my production company. And we were going to try to sell a program, but we got tied up in doing the production of Bloodline. So, you know, projects sort of come, they sit, they marinate, they go away. And that was one that we ended up losing out on because we were too tied up with other things. But it's still so interesting to me because you just wouldn't believe the results that these people were getting and were able to prove. And interestingly, that same group sort of did a tour, or at least they came over to America. And I realized much later that I had had a couple of friends attend those sessions and tell me all these wild things. But, you know, unfortunately, I didn't quite believe them. And then later, when I became acquainted with the Scole group and realized that it was the same people and realized that I had just poo-pooed my friends for nothing. Anyhow, much, much more informed about this topic is my guest. And not only that, she has begun for some time now, and under the tutelage of some of the original Scole group, an American Scole group. And I'm telling you, I don't know if I could handle some of those sessions, although they're getting amazing results. But some of it seems very spooky to me, and I'm going to let my guest explain. But of course, I'm talking about our guest tonight, Patricia Baker, who is also the host of Supernatural Girlz right here on KGRA. So glad to have you on KGRA, by the way, Patricia.
Thanks to you. Well, thanks to you.
Oh, well, hey, I've been looking for you over here for a long time.
I know, really.
So that's great. That is really great. And, you know, I don't know if I've ever asked you this. How was it that you first came into contact with either the Skull Group or with the story of the Skull Group? How did you know about them?
It's a really good question, and I can't give you a definitive answer on how I first came in contact with the concept of the Skull Group. But the first time that I met Robin was when he came onto my show and we interviewed him. At the time, it was Helene Olsen and myself. Helene was a medium, quite well known, and we had an incredible interview with him. But what was more extraordinary was that 3 nights or 2 or 3 nights before the show, I woke up about 1:00 in the morning, and my room was filled with all of these people from the other side that I didn't know. And one of the women had this beautiful, like, lace dress, and I reached out, I could actually touch it. It was visceral. And I had no idea what these people were doing here. They were from another time, an earlier time, the 1800s or early 1900s. I didn't recognize any of them, and I didn't think of myself as a medium. I knew I was psychic, I knew I had had experiences, but I never thought of myself as a medium, and I couldn't understand why this group came to me rather than going to Helene. So I mentioned this to Robin, and he didn't have too much to say at the time about it. But Robin and I stayed in touch, and it took me 2 more interviews to find out what happened. Now, Skoll
Now,
went.
you're talking about Robin Foy, who was a member of the original Skulls. I'm
Yes,
going to
he
put a
was.
picture up of them that you kindly sent to me.
Yes, there they are. And
So which one is Robin?
Robin is on the right. He's the heavy-set gentleman with the tie.
Okay, gray hair and tie. Okay.
Yes, his wife, Sandra, is right underneath him. So what happened was, in the 3rd interview, I finally got to the point of saying, "What happened? Why did 5 years of this come to an end?" Because they had obviously gotten quite close to their other side team. They worked with a team on the other side. That's what made this so powerful. And he
Oh,
told
that's right.
us
They had a spirit team, they called it. Yeah.
exactly. And all these luminaries would stop in. I believe
Yeah.
Churchill was one. I mean, it was incredible. They had actual full body apparitions. And they had amazing things happen. And there's a movie called The Afterlife Investigations, which is all about their work. And it's on YouTube. It's free if you're interested. Anybody in your audience, go see it. It's very well done. And it shows you everything they did, from the Polaroid film that they placed on the table in its wrapper that they would undo, and all of these photographs would show up. They
I
had
remember that. I remember that part very well. They used to, when they first started, I guess they were instructed by the spirit team to bring a camera.
yes.
And then they would be instructed, because they were working in pitch black and pitch darkness,
Right.
they would be instructed by the spirits to snap a photograph at a particular time. Later on development, there would be images, sometimes like writing, like a newspaper, picture of a newspaper. Sometimes there would be
Well, they had
faces.
angel sigils would show up.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
That's right. I forgot about that. But then later, they were instructed to just put the camera on the table, and they didn't have to do anything. And then following that, they were just told to set the can of film down on the table. And the film was sealed. It was in one of those little canisters like we used to get,
Yeah, old time.
for our little cameras. And it was closed. They had a deal. I believe it was Kodak who would give them the canister of film, and then they would take it back. So there was like a chain of custody thing going on there. So nobody took it and messed with it. And they would take that, just that can of film, develop it, and they would still be the images.
Yes, and they were incredible images. They had images of the Blue Man. They had images of landscapes from what looked like another planet. Just incredible things. They also had apports. So while they'd be doing their sitting, all of a sudden something would just fall out of the ceiling onto the table. At one point, they had a newspaper that did fall onto their table. They
Yes.
brought it to be analyzed, and the paper and the ink were found to be from a totally different time. It was from 18 something. So just incredible things like that. There hasn't been a group since that I'm aware of that was able to produce these types of amazing experiences that were all verified. So this was
Correct me if I'm wrong about this, but I mean, it was these two married couples, and they sort of just started out thinking, let's try this, or, interested maybe
well, yeah, but
they
they
live
were
in a little English village. There's probably not much to do.
yeah, right. They're sitting
And
around.
Mary said, let's figure out, if we can do a seance, or if we can communicate with the other side.
They
And
were
then,
very committed to what they did. They were all mediums, first of all. So they all knew what they were doing, and they sat like 3 times a week, every week for hours. So they were very committed to it, and they would start lifting up the vibrations with song and laughter and things like that. And yeah, then it got even more amazing when they brought people in to watch what they were doing, and I believe they had 6 mediums total. And when the audience would sit there, oftentimes people would get healing. So and you could see in the video taken these little orbs that would be going around to people. One woman had a knee problem, and the orb went right into her knee and healed her knee, and she never had another problem. So really extraordinary things came from what they did.
can I ask you something? Something just exploded in my head. During that same time that we were talking to the Skulls, beginning the work on our other film, um, that was, right around the time that my daughter passed.
Ah,
And
mhm.
so it was like, I think it was 4 months after she passed that I had to go to the UK to meet with the Priory of Zion, of all things. Anyway, and I know everybody was really worried about me, and that, I know I had spoken with a grief counselor a couple times back then, and she said, "I'm just afraid you're going to forget you lose your passport, because your head is not, you
Yeah.
know, all together." I said, "Oh no, I'm going with my business partner. I'll just be like a dog on a ride. He'll just drag me wherever he needs me." And that's exactly what happened. But as I was rushing around and waiting uh, to be picked up to go to the airport, I was passing by a little table. Oh, that's weird. It's this table. Anyway, it's in a completely different house. I was passing by this table, and I heard something hit the table. And I looked, and there was a, a box wrapped in pink tissue paper.
Hmm.
And I thought, what the heck did this? And it wasn't all sealed up. It was just sort of loosely wrapped. I opened it. There was a ring box with a ring in it.
Oh my God.
And I'd never seen the ring before. Um, Oddly, it was a small little ring. I'm not one for big jewelry. I just don't feel comfortable. I don't know why, but I like smaller things. Um, and But what was funny was I was I was going to wear my daughter's ring, to England, and I was at the last minute. I put it back because I was afraid I would lose it.
Mm.
It was actually too big for me. I put some tape on it, but I thought, no, I just don't want to take a chance. This is hers, and I don't want to lose it. So I put it back, and then a few minutes later, I passed by. There was this ring box on my table, and I didn't have time to really do much investigation at the time. But I asked everyone because, like I said, I was in that whole grief thing, and I said, did you give me a ring, or did you lose a ring, at my house, or
Mm.
no one ever claimed it. And now it's got like all these little missing diamonds in it, and I'm so scared to leave it somewhere to be
Oh.
fixed, but I'm going to. But I wear it all the time. I never take it off, or I mean, I might take it off, but I always put it right back on. I'm always wearing it, and to this day, I have no idea.
Well, it sounds like it was a gift from your daughter.
I really felt like that, but I'm always like, oh, things like this don't happen to me. They happen to other people.
It happened
But
to
anyway, but it was about that time during that whole skull thing when I remember being so amazed at those apportations that they were getting. And I remembered when it happened, I don't know if I would have had a frame of reference for that had I not been looking into the skulls. I probably, would have just thought, oh well, I don't know. Somebody lost it here, and I just haven't run across the right person. But
right,
why would it be wrapped up like a little gift almost,
because it was a gift. Yeah.
I
You know,
think
one thing you'll find interesting is this, that when I had contact with Robin and all of the things that went on with his group, not just the work I did here, the sittings I did here opened up, but everything in my land opened up too.
ooh,
So it doesn't surprise me that that happened for you because it's like their energy was so powerful. It really did transcend time and space. And so here you were having this experience of losing your daughter and your grief. And I think it kind of hooked up with you and you were able to get this gift from your daughter. The Skull Group had a very powerful battery. And that's why they were able to do so many things from the apportations to the photography to the full body apparitions to the experience with the Time Lord. I mean, it was because they were that powerful together as a group.
so when you said they had a powerful battery, you're talking about the synergy among that group that they created their own battery.
They had a huge power source that was created among them and then also transcended time and space with their other side team. So between the other side team and them, there was no stopping them really until they were stopped, which I'll get to because that's an extraordinary story in and of itself. That's
Oh, I do want to hear that, but also I don't want to get away too from the work that you're doing.
well,
So
this will lead into it, and I'll tell you because
there's certainly
I
plenty of time
wonder.
because that's really pretty amazing in itself.
Yeah, so here I am wondering why these people showed up in my room. And eventually, like I said, I brought Robin Foy back a couple more times. And the third time he came back, I asked him, why did this come to an end? They had gone for 5 years doing all these sittings. It was an amazing, amazing experience. And he reluctantly told me what happened. And what it was this. One day during their sitting, they were visited by an actual Time Lord, just like Doctor Who. So this Time Lord shows up and says, I'm sorry, but I have to tell you, you will not be allowed to do this anymore. You will not be allowed to connect with your spirit team ever again. And of course, they were heartbroken. I mean, just heartbroken. They loved their other side team. They felt that that was their family. You know, they were so close. So, of course, they demanded to know why. And the Time Lord said, because there is another group like yours in the future. And that group found out about you, and they are going to be trying to connect with your group. And we cannot allow that to happen, because if it happens, it is going to make a big mess of all the timelines. We cannot allow it. So
So it was a group
in the
that might have been not too good, or
I don't know if it was
just
good or
that
bad,
just
positive or negative. They were just exploring, much like Robin's group was exploring, but because they had gotten wind of Robin's group and wanted to connect with them, the Time Lord stepped in, because apparently there are real Time Lords out there and they keep an eye on all of this. And they said, this cannot happen. It would be terrible if this happened. So anyways, Robin's group was a bit stubborn. They didn't want to give up their friends on the other side. And they tried a couple of times to connect with them again. And this horrible high-pitched noise would start. So the mediums couldn't concentrate. They couldn't make the connection. So that was the end of the Skull group.
They didn't even really get to say goodbye.
They didn't.
Oh,
But that's the reason. See, I didn't know any of this.
no,
That's
I didn't.
That's the reason that those people showed up in my bedroom. They were looking for another group to work with. And I'm sure a way to communicate with Robin and his group too.
Yeah.
That's why they showed up. So finally,
So
my question was
how
answered.
did you connect them, the people that showed up in your room, how did you connect them up with Robin and the Skulls?
Because of the time period that they were from. And I knew from listening to Robin who his group consisted of.
Oh,
So
I see. So you identified them.
So I was like, that's who they were. But again, why are they in my bedroom? What is going on here? And they were lovely, all of them. But they had enough power just amongst themselves on the other side for me to be able to touch that dress and feel the lace.
And that's what I was going to ask you. You said it was visceral. Could you actually feel like if you closed your eyes, you could actually feel like you're feeling lace?
Yes. Yes.
I've been hearing about those kind of visceral experiences. I mean, never in the past, but just lately. And I'm wondering if there's overall some sort of either thinning of the veil or lifting of the veil, or do you feel like there's an evolution going on?
Yeah, I do. I think there's a lot of can I say this? So the walls amongst and between the dimensions are definitely different than they were in the past. This happened in 2013, so that was quite some time ago. But yeah, I do agree that there's very little between here and there.
Yeah, it's
So
almost just like right there.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
Now, what were the years and how long were the Skull group sitting in these sessions?
I know I don't
Yeah,
know exactly the years, but I know by the time I was talking to Robin in 2013, they had ended. But it was
yeah,
5 years that they did this.
5 years.
Yeah, and again, they were very committed. They were there 3 times a week, every week, and so you could see how the energy could build, and it did. It really did.
You know, I'm trying to think if they were still sitting when we spoke with them. I mean, my business partner, Bruce, went to Skull and visited with them. I know he met Robin, um, but I'm trying to remember if they had already stopped or if they were still going, or if the book in the book that came out about them, Patricia, at the end of it, they had stopped. Is that right? Or
I'm not sure if they talked about that in the ending of that book. But I had no idea about the Time Lord and all of those other things.
oh, I know that wasn't revealed.
No, it wasn't. So I really am grateful to Robin that he shared that with us because, again, it was such a big reveal. I mean, a Time Lord of all things showing up and saying, you can't do this anymore after they had had such great success, such good, warm, loving feelings towards each other and the other side team. And then to have to be told you can't ever do this again. It was devastating for them.
Well, yeah, especially just cutting it,
Yeah.
just like that. They
Yeah.
didn't even get a chance to,
Yeah. To wave goodbye. Thanks for everything, right? No, it was
Yeah,
dangerous, apparently. According to the Time Lord, it would have been extremely dangerous to all the other timelines.
and the Time Lords, are they sort of keeping things on track? Is that what it is?
I guess they don't want anybody to interfere with the timelines to the extent that there could be upheaval. So
Right.
it's their job. I don't know how many there are or anything like that, but they had their own experience. Robin and his team had
Did
their
he describe the Time Lord, or what, or was
no,
there any images?
no, I wish there were, but there weren't.
And you got some pretty amazing images, which we'll show at the appropriate time here. But
Yeah, yeah,
so
we pursued this under Robin's guidance, and I'll tell you a funny thing. I said to him, Robin, after every session, I go up to my refrigerator and I just tear it apart. I'm starving. And why is that? And he said, oh, same thing for us. So I don't know if we needed to replenish energy or whatever, but I said, Robin, if this keeps up, I'm going to weigh 1,000 pounds. My God, because it would be this incredible hunger, that would set in right after the session. So anyhow, but we started working together. It was Helene Olson, who, as you know, was a medium, and then Betty Andreasen's daughter, who was extremely.
the famous Andreasen affair,
That's right.
UFO experience. Yeah.
So both of them had tremendous talent. I was very blessed to work with them. And we started working with the bell jar, which is what Robin told us to do. So we had this glass bell jar with a wooden base. We put it in the center of the table. Now we were all in different locations. So we did this via Skype. So Helene was up near Salem and Becky was down in Virginia. And here I am in Massachusetts, but we made it work. So one of the photos I didn't get to send you came through the bell jar when we first started working. And it was my dog who had died 35 years ago. And it was clear. I mean, a clear image of Angel was her name. And I happened to show it to a friend of mine the other day who knew Angel from so long ago. I didn't say anything. I just showed her the picture. She goes, oh, it's Angel. And I'm like, yes, that's who it was, So that was one of the first images that came through. Now, we didn't have any success with the Polaroid film. We tried. It didn't work out so well. But then what happened was we started taking photographs of our computer screen. And all kinds of things started showing up. So it was quite an adventure. One of the entities that showed up was called the Commander. It was a reptilian, but a good one. And
Was that one of the pictures that you sent me?
no, I didn't get to send that one to you. It's a little hard to see, so I wasn't sure it would translate
You did send me a picture of yourself,
with
a
somebody.
reptilian behind you, or something. Was
Oh,
that a bad one?
cryptids. No, that happened, and this is what I mean with the bleed through. That photograph happened in this room. Yes, you'll see the top head. You see that alien head, then the one I circled underneath, and then a
Yeah.
third. Now, I am sitting in the same room, and behind me is actually the wall that those 3, whatever that
Yes.
interdimensional showed up on, and you can see behind me, it's a
Yes.
plain
See
wall.
the same wall. Yeah.
They showed up. So this is while I was doing an interview with a cryptid expert. All of a sudden they showed up, and this was not during a sitting. So this is what I mean. Once you start working with this energy, it does tend to bleed through. And so that
Okay.
was
Is that a warning?
no, 'cause there was nothing scary that ever happened. I mean, there were things that were
Really?
surprising, but yeah, but we didn't have anything scary happen. But with the commander, he gave us a message, and it was a very clear message that all of us had to basically clean up our act. We had to make sure we were eating clean food, drinking clean water, um, getting rid of bad habits. Now, I did
Uh-oh.
not know that Helene was a big smoker, and she ate lots of sugar and lots of fried food. She never shared that with me. She told me she ate salads, and it wasn't until later I found out what she was really eating. And Becky, same thing. She drank really strong coffee all day, smoked like a fiend, and also had a lot of fast food. So the commander was saying, "This is a warning. You guys have to clean up your act." Now, I was the only good person, good girl here, eating no gluten, no dairy, this and that. But I still took his warning to heart, and I was like, maybe I got to clean up some stuff here too. Maybe I'm not taking the right supplements or whatever. Well, Helene got very angry about that message. She's like, "Hey, I'm doing the best I can. What am I supposed to do?" I'm like, "Look, do what you want, but this message came through." Well, shortly thereafter, she was having back pain. So she went to an acupuncturist, chiropractor, and they're trying to straighten it out. Well, then one night she ended up in the emergency room because she was in so much pain. Turned out to be pancreatic cancer. So 3 months
It's
later, she had
whoops.
died. And it was very sad. We obviously had quite a loss there with Helene, but when I look at that message, it's like that's what the message was saying, was you guys are gonna be in serious trouble if you don't clean this up. And then, Becky and I continued to work together, and we invited George Lugo, who very famous,
Yes.
and we got great results. George was a wonderful addition to the group. We had, so much fun with him, and we had quite a few exciting explorations. Now with George, a lot of a lot of these things showed up in our photography on the screen. And when we would start our process with George, which was very interesting, one of the 2 of the photos I sent you, we would turn blue. I mean, blue. So
I
my
saw
face
that photo. That I did not get that photo downloaded, and it was very tiny.
yeah, I
Uh,
don't know why it came out like that. And then there was one of Becky when she was starting to turn blue. But Becky's hands would turn blue, my face, my head, um, and hers. And it was like we were going into a portal. It's like we were peering into a portal. And as we did that, we would just turn dark blue.
so wild.
We had all kinds of strange and unusual things like that. We met other entities, and then unfortunately, Becky got quite ill. She had esophageal cancer. There's the warning again. And she also passed away. So another big loss. And then George and I continued to work together for a period of time. We went exploring. We went looking for some of David Polite's identified missing people. And we saw some really scary things when we went looking. So that I'd say was
What
the time we were
kind of
most
things?
cautious. Well, what we saw, I don't know if you remember the stories about the young men They would be in college. Most of them were engineers. You know, David has his identifications for what fits his missing 411. And then they'd find a body in water. They would say that this young man died from drowning, but there really was no proof of that. So, and plus they had been missing for a very long period of time, but they weren't in the water for a long period of time. So when we went looking, what we saw were is really, really difficult to talk about because I know it sounds absolutely crazy, but this is what we both found, that these young men were being abducted and their souls were being taken from them. And their souls were being placed in this energetic grid. Both George and I saw this. I made contact with one of the men. He was a doctor who had been hiking in Colorado and he had disappeared. He wasn't one of the ones in water, but I found him. And George said to me, he knows you've seen him. Don't be surprised if you actually see him. I didn't end up seeing him, but I could feel his energy so strongly because he knew what had happened. But you could see these containers in this grid. It was.
Why were they doing that? What was the purpose?
I don't know, but there was definitely a Nazi type of involvement. Much about, you know, what you and I have heard about is going on in Antarctica. So there was something to do with retrieving these souls, and then they would just dump the bodies, which was absolutely horrifying. And then we went looking for Stacy Ann Aris, who I felt was still somebody we could retrieve. I don't know why I felt that way, but I did. And George and I went looking for her, and we seemed to find her I can't even tell you where because it's in a totally different dimension. And we worked on that case for a few times. And then one day.
Who is that person? I'm not familiar with that name.
Was a teenager who had been on a horseback riding trip with her father and several other people. And she wanted to go take some pictures down by the lake. An older gentleman said, I'll go with her. She'll be fine. They both walked down to the lake and she was never seen again. All they found was the lens cap to her camera. It was many years ago. I think it was like 30 years ago. So anyhow, I was standing in my kitchen, and this was after George and I had done 3 sessions looking for her. And I hear the doorknob being moved on the outside door. And I'm by myself, and I live on 75 acres of land. There's nobody around me. And if somebody was coming up the driveway, all my driveway alarms would have gone off, and they didn't. So I'm hearing this, and I throw the door open, and I'm expecting to see her there. And I didn't see anybody, but there was definitely something energetically that was going on. But I think some of these people have just gone into different dimensions, and some of them once we figure out how, we may be able to retrieve them. And then the other.
I think that there are those, in, government or secret government programs or anything like that know about this and have given tacit permission. And is that why, as my friend Don Ecker says, disclosure is never going to happen?
I agree.
That we want it to, the way that we think it might, with the government coming clean, because
they won't.
There's too much to hide about what they've done.
They know a lot that they're never going to reveal. Never.
Just the things that we know about, with like government disinformation programs and things like that. Like I don't know if you're familiar with the Paul Benowitz case.
Yes.
They admittedly, drove this guy completely crazy. And because of some things that he had observed. And so they just had to, make him look like a crazy person. And they completely,
a lot of people.
Stuff like that if we knew about everything that was going on, then we would also know how bad, some of our military leaders or whoever it is have been, because they've allowed us to be used.
Well, that's definitely true. They have allowed us to be used, and then on top of it, they come back and try to make everybody look foolish for even
Yeah,
talking. So it's a double whammy, and I think it's appalling, and that's not even a strong enough word to describe any of it. But with the Skull Group, it's something that, again, I wish that we could have worked together. They didn't work by Skype, so we didn't get a chance to work directly with them. But I did stay in touch with Robin to a point, and then George went off and did some other things, and I was doing some other things, so we weren't working the Skull system anymore. But then a friend of mine contacted me who's local. She said, I'd kind of like to do this. I'm like, well, I'm not sure if it's going to work because you're not a medium. And I said, but I'm willing to try. So we did start the work and we did have immediate results. And we had been working together once a week for maybe about a year. And I thought, I should really get back in touch with Robin. So I sent him a Skype message, but I'm like, he's probably not sitting around with Skype open. I should probably try to call him. So I called him, but there was no answer. So the next time we met,
oh no,
look up to see who's in our team room, and there's Robin.
from the other side.
Yes, and it's like, oh my God. I'm like, Robin, what are you doing over there? I pulled out my phone and I typed in Robin Foy obituary, and there it was. There is a picture that I took of the screen, and there is Robin's face. You can see that and compare it to the other picture.
Yeah,
And that's what happened. He showed right up and he became a member of our team.
that is amazing, but it's also sad.
It was very sad. I mean, I was particularly sad because I knew him,
You knew him, yeah.
and as much as I was grateful he joined our team immediately, I was sad that I didn't get to work with him while he was alive, at least in
Wow.
this context, but we all have to make that trip someday, but I was sad he did it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
anyways,
Yeah.
since that time, we have encountered many, many different beings, many different entities, including, and you'll be happy to hear this, the Templar Knights.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was that like? What can you tell me a little bit about
It
that?
was very unusual. I mean, they carry a very different energy, and they came in a group of like 6, and they told me that they were guardians of consciousness, that that's what they were, and that's what they still are. So we talked with them for a little while. They came back a couple more times, but they didn't really give us a lot of information. And this is what happens sometimes. Sometimes when you're doing a sitting, you'll attract other entities in and other spirits, and they want to know what we're doing. So they'll sit there quietly
Right.
and watch what's happening. So I expect to be encountering them again, but I was very, very excited to hear what they had to say, that they were guardians of consciousness.
Wow. And I wonder how that works, or did they tell you anything more, or were they just kind of passing through, or
They came to see what we were doing, like so many do, and I know that they'll be back. So I will have my questions for them. When I was surprised, and you're a little startled to see, what are they doing here, kind of thing. And yet there they
yeah.
were. but we've encountered many others. We've encountered an amazing entity from Göbekli Tepe who gave us a lot of information about
Oh,
Göbekli.
wow.
We also encountered a being. I thought it was a rock. I was looking around and I see Peru and I see the mountains and I see what I thought was a rock, and I look again and it was an entity, a very powerful female entity. And we had a shaman on our show, Don Oscar, and I told him about it and I described the entity and he said, "That's a creator god. That's who that is." And then he told me a little bit about creator gods, and they were here to create aspects of the world. So, we've learned to talk with these entities and, I mean, communicate clearly and listen to what they have to say. And I love the experience of it. I think it's valuable in so many ways, but it also, when you do sittings like this, it creates new pathways in your brain.
Mm.
You're always expanding your consciousness when you do this kind of work. And I never know who's going to show up. I know our basic team will show up. Becky's on our team and the other side, and Robin. Betty
Oh,
Andreasen also is a member of our team. Andrea Puharich. We have a lot of Marianne Schenefield also.
did you say Betty Andreasen?
Betty Andreasen,
She's
yes.
on the other side now?
Oh, yeah, she passed a couple of years ago. Yes.
Did I know that? Oh, well, she's with her daughter. That's wonderful.
Yes, they both show up to the sittings every time we do them. And now I'm without sitting partners, so I'm doing it myself and I'm still able to connect. Of course, it'd be nice if we had a bigger battery, but I'm still able to do it. And again, I see so much benefit and I really want to encourage other people to try it. Now, we did bring other people in that wanted to experience it, have some healing, etc. And we had some amazing things happen there too. So I'm going to restructure it at some point.
I'd
And
like to try it sometime with you.
have you come in
I
sometime.
tell you, I'm not psychic, although I've had a lot of odd things, but I'm always able to explain them away in my head. But what I am is a good transmitter. I'm
Ah.
a good conductor
Mhm.
of energy, and like I used to, we used to play this game, when I was in my 20s or something with our neighbors, where I would think of something and try to transmit it, and then they'd go back the other way. It didn't work as well the other way, but I could generally transmit what I wanted them to know or to say back to me. And then when we were over in France a couple years ago, we were in this location that is highly energetic, and I just had a feeling that I could channel that energy. And so Jay was walking around with his meters and stuff. And I said, "Hey, come over here and point the meter toward me." So he did. And I said, "Okay." And then I put my finger out, pointed directly at him, and the meter just went completely off the
Wow.
rail. So I wonder if that would be of any assistance. I don't know.
Let's give it a try sometime and we'll see what happens. I mean, the one thing I tell everybody who's interested in this is don't let your fear get the best of you.
No, I'm not afraid.
Well, everybody everybody says that till they start the sitting and something shows up. Like one of my
Well, okay. I'll reserve my opinion then until after something shows up.
happened. And the mantis showed up and she got very frightened. And what was interesting was then the mantis didn't come back for a long time. So that's
Oh,
what I mean, that we didn't have any really frightening experiences. But if somebody's in the group and they get scared of what they're seeing and sensing, then it can stop the whole process.
yeah. I think that maybe 20 years ago, it might have been more frightening to me, but I'm sort of, I don't know. things, I don't know if it's just getting old or if it's, going through major loss and feeling like, hey, I've been through the worst thing possible. Nothing can, be worse than that. Um, but it's, I've lost, you know, fear about a lot of things. I know I used to be much more unlikely to speak my mind and things, and now I have to be careful and kind of reel myself in because I've got no problem at all sharing my opinion. But I think by the same token, I've witnessed not only, in person, but through friends and stories and things that I've studied, the possibilities of things out there. I, I don't think I would get too scared now. I probably will be made to eat those words.
I hope not.
That's how I feel at the moment.
Good. All right. Yeah, well, we're gonna have to plan on it. The next time I start this up, I will give you a call for sure.
Yeah.
We'll
Or,
see what can happen.
if you don't want to, involve someone else or, uh, maybe you and I could try it sometime.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's fine.
I don't want to burden anybody else, but you're my friend. I can burden you.
No problem, and it's no burden. It's very exciting work, and as I mentioned to you before we went on the air, I'm putting a book together of my experiences with this, and I'm calling it Weaving Worlds, because that is what I feel is happening. The worlds are coming together in a beautiful way, and thanks to Robin really showing us the way, that this is all possible. I'm very grateful to him for opening the doors literally so that we could begin this work.
Wow, that is really amazing. I did not know, obviously, the story of exactly why. I knew that when they ended,
Yeah.
and that was it. But
Mhm.
I did not know why. And I didn't know, what they kind of went through over that. I can imagine it would be like withdrawals.
Yeah, and I know that, they were in Spain, Robin and his wife, and they started a group there, but I think it wasn't too long after that that he passed away. His wife,
Oh,
Sandra, is still alive, and I just
does
don't.
she still live in Spain?
No, she moved back to the UK is what I heard. I was trying to find her because I wanted to send her the photograph of Robin that I took
Right.
at the session and just say hello and again thank her and, Robin for everything. But yeah, she's still with us.
Oh, wow.
Mhm.
Cool. I wonder if she continues on with anything. I mean, obviously, if she's a medium, I mean, you just are, and
Yeah,
she
yeah.
probably gets, some sort of messages. I wonder if she's been able to connect with Robin very much.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, again, their bond was quite solid, and so, again, I hope to get her email and be able to connect with her at some point now that she's moved
Hmm.
back to the UK, so I haven't stopped trying to
Yeah,
find her in the world.
I haven't talked to the young woman named Victoria Holt. I don't know if you have run across her at all.
No.
But she was the one that was working with the Solomons and the Skull Group to, put the book, to shop the book for a documentary or a film. And if I can find her, she might
She
be
might
able to
know.
respond to. So
Yeah.
I'll help you. I'll see if I can help track her down for you.
Yeah, I'd love that. The
Yeah.
one thing
So
that really was mind-boggling to me after I saw everything that they had accomplished, and I saw the film, The Afterlife Investigations, I was like, "Why isn't this front page news?" I mean, this says it all. It's groundbreaking. It's life after death. It's more than life after death. It's crossing dimensions and boundaries and having a conversation with somebody who's dead. And I mean, dead to us in this reality, but clearly is alive. And I was I was just so sad that it was covered up, swept under the rug, or whatever the heck they did, that very few people know about it.
You know what I think? I think it's lost in the, in the chaos. I think that there's so much stuff out there. I don't know, if people really knew that much about it. Getting word out. I mean, you could have the most killer movie in the world, but if you don't have the wherewithal to promote it, you know, independent filmmakers don't realize that, when they're making their film, that they're going to need at least as much money for promotions as they did for making the film, if not more.
Exactly.
And it's hard to, and the other thing is, I'm a big believer in timing. And if it's not the right timing, it'll just kind of sizzle there, just kind of ferment there. And, but it could be that it will come out more. It could be that, maybe what you're doing, by drawing attention to it, because, I have to admit, I did not know about that film on YouTube. I am going to go watch that film. So, probably somebody else that's listening to us right now, or that will listen later,
Right.
will go check it out as well. So it could be. I've just found, like, how it is in television, Patricia. We both, done work in, pitching shows and doing all that stuff, and it's like you might have the greatest project in the world, but you just cannot get anyone to even look or understand, what you see. You can't make your point on, to another person. And then suddenly, maybe 3 years later, it'll be the best thing they've ever heard.
Yeah.
It's like there's a timing about things. And I think some of it is, man-made. And I think some of it is actually just a universal system that says, nope, not yet. We're going to release this when it's the right time. And so it could be that what you're doing will now, trigger, especially with your book coming out. And, and I know it certainly re-sparked my interest. I'd heard about, this a long time ago, and even have had friends that have sat with the Skull Group and had some incredible things happen. And I just thought, oh, they're just exaggerating, but I didn't realize the whole depth of, what the Skull Group was doing. That's before I knew, and before I even heard the word skull. And then I later realized it was the same people.
And keep this in mind too, in that group. I'm not sure how many of them, but I think at least 2, maybe 3 of them were physical mediums. So that's different than just a typical medium. I think that's one of the reasons why they were able to get so many physical things to come through. Physical mediums tend to look like Robin, big bones, kind of big mass about them. So yes. So that's a difference.
That's kind of interesting. I've heard something about that, that somehow the size of the person has something sort of to do with their, maybe not that's what makes them have the ability, but it goes along and enhances the ability in some way. Just really,
there's something that goes on with the bones being that big that make it easier to resonate, I think, with other dimensions if they know how to do it and they're able to bring these things through, much like Skull did. So, and here I'm a little pipsqueak. I am definitely not.
Yeah, you are.
So I'm surprised.
I should have tried this back when I was, almost 100 pounds heavier.
Right.
I don't think it was my bones that were big. I think it was other things. because I still got the same bones and they're pretty small.
Oh, goodness.
Oh my goodness. You know what? We've gone over time.
I thought we had, yeah, but it was so much
I
fun.
don't know why I do this, but the good thing about it is that my show, uh, beginning, I believe, with this one, or maybe even one before, uh, begins at midnight now, Eastern time.
Oh, okay.
And we have a new show, which we put as my lead in. So a new show called, Human Ascension with Ellie, and she's a friend of mine. She's my favorite YouTuber, and she's got a show called Ellie Dreams Down Under. Oh, I talked with you about Ellie.
It's the tarot card reader, right?
Yeah, and but it's not gonna be tarot.
Uh-huh.
It's going to be, she's been doing a lot of research into, uh, like, ancient wisdom, religious thought, philosophical thought, all kinds of things, and there's this idea out there that we are ascending, we are evolving, and there's some sort of coming event that's going to, even further push us forward. So she's looking into all that. Uh,
Exciting.
she's tying in a lot of things that are really interesting, that you wouldn't think tie in together, like things from ancient history to modern things that you think, wow, there is a tie in there.
Yeah,
Really smart lady. Anyway, she's gonna be my lead in, and so she'll be at 11 Eastern, and
great.
I will be at midnight, which means that I'm the last show,
Okay.
the last live show, so that if I go over,
Nobody cares. That's
they
fine.
don't care. Exactly. Bill's gonna kill me because this is the second time in a row now I've done this 'cause, I did a show with Ellie. But anyhow, I enjoyed it so much, Patricia. We should have done this a long time ago.
Oh, well, thank you so much for the invitation. It's been a pleasure being with you as always.
Yeah, and so happy to have you, on KGRA. Now tell us, what time and when your
What
show
time
is.
for
Who
Supernatural
canceled
Girls?
yours?
We are on every Tuesday at 6, let's see, yeah, 6 o'clock Eastern time. And this coming week, we are going to be interviewing someone from the UK who has the story on Roswell of the UK. So apparently there's another Roswell type, uh, I guess, what would we call it? It crash landed in the UK. So he's got the story on that. We will be
Wait a
discussing
minute.
it on Tuesday. His name is Mark Ollie, and he has a new book out about it. So,
I think I might have seen something about that recently, but I thought you were originally gonna, talk about the Rendlesham Forest
oh,
incident.
with
This is
Larry Warren, that we will be doing later on, I'm sure. I've had Larry on the show a couple of times talking about Rendlesham Forest. He was there.
he's kind of a controversial figure in that
Oh
story,
gosh, I know, I know. We've got lots to talk about.
I tell you. Alright, well, thank you again, and we'll do it again, and, since we.
Anytime, just let me know. I've got plenty of stories to tell. And many blessings to you when you go to France. Enjoy every minute, as I know you will.
Thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to it.
I know you are. Going home.
Yeah, yeah, going home again, that'll be great. Yep. I get to stay a little bit longer this time, so that's nice.
That's great. Well,
I'll
you be
be
safe.
over there one of these days. I'll be retiring in the sun in southern France.
Ah,
It
heavens,
sounds so glamorous,
it
but
does.
it's not.
Oh, I'll
Not
say
where I go. Uh,
okay.
I'm down there with the salt of the earth, the farmers and the tiny shopkeepers and all that, which I love. I just love the nature and also all the remnants of the past.
That's so nice. Well, you enjoy, and thank you again for having me on the show. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you, Patricia, and thanks everyone. Hope you'll
Okay.
join us again soon. Bye.